Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. I'm joined today with another one of the disciples here in the Success Program at the Dream Center of Beaumont, Texas, Jeff Macapinlac. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And Jeff has been the guy that has fed us for the past month. And I mean, fed us good.
Oh, you guys mean good to me.
So we certainly appreciate that. But you originally started out in the LA Dream Center, and then for some reasons that I'll let you explain in a little bit here, came here to the Dream Center of Southeast Texas. So I guess first of all, I mean, just tell me the story about how you got here, and then I want to talk a lot more about where you're going, because I think that's the real inspiration of this story. Okay. So, obviously, again, battled addiction for 2 decades. What was it that got you that said, man, I need something more?
All right. Well, I guess I should start from the beginning. So how it was like being an addict before LA Dream Center.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I was born in 1977, 44 years old. I was born, before I was born, my parents were immigrants in the Philippines. Moved in Seattle, Washington, 1977, I was born.
So you were born in the U.S., though?
Yes,
right? Okay.
I was born in Seattle, Washington. And a couple of years after, 4 years after that, we moved to North Hollywood, California. Growing up in my household, it was great. My parents provided. I went to school, but in the 90s, when I started going on my teens, when I was 12 years old, well, let's rewind. When I was growing up in my household, going to school, even though I was getting my grades up, going to classes, for some reason I was attracted to more mischievous things. Like when we were growing up and going to school, I was seeing these guys that were doing things that we weren't supposed to, but for some reason I was attracted to that. So I started hanging out with guys that were, back then, were pretty rebellious, misfits. So I started hanging out with a certain crowd that I was attracted to, but yet I was still going to school, doing my grades. And by the time that I was 12, I hit my first joint.
Wow, 12 years old.
Yeah.
When I say wow, but yet, I mean, I was doing some pretty messed up stuff at 12 years old too, which is one of those things which, it's funny when I coached, I coached everything from 10 and under up to college age kids. And I know when I coached those younger kids, there were times I'm looking at them like, man, I hope those guys aren't doing some of the things I was doing when I was 12 years old.
This generation right now, kids are doing things that are 13 and 12.
Yeah.
They're getting pregnant, they're doing drugs.
But it's really crazy to
it is.
To think about it. But anyway, we digress.
Like I said, it's the environment that we surround ourselves in.
Yeah.
Like I said, I took my first joint when I was 12. Doing it in the back in the bleachers after school. We go to the park, roll a joint, smoke and go home. And my parents were never home, so they were always working at the time. So most of the time I was by myself.
Right.
I have an older brother and older sister, but they're doing their own thing too, because they were a little bit older than I was. They had their own friends. They had their own social, so they were doing, they were hanging out with their own friends, so they were never home. Started smoking weed. By the time I got to high school, I got in a gang. I was hanging out with a bunch of bloods, and when I was 15, they actually put me on, and then from then on, everything went downhill pretty much. I had a I want to say a role model. Well, I would say role model, because regardless of what you do in life, someone looks up to you, even if you're doing negative things or positive things. They're watching you, so that makes you a role model. But what type of role model you want to be? But anyway, he was kind of like my role model. He was a dope dealer, selling drugs, having money, having cars, And then I started hanging out with him more often. Before I was hanging out less in the house, and I was hanging out with him. And then he taught me how to cook dope. and I started selling drugs. So I started making cocaine, making crack out of cocaine, and started selling it. And then pretty soon, 2 years after that, when I was 17 years old, I robbed my first house. And from then on, I made a career of robbing houses, and I was just addicted to it. And so then on, criminal activities, doing more dope, started smoking a lot more weed. I never got to any heavy drugs until I was like in my 20s, when I started actually working. Because when I wanted to get away for a minute from the gang life, so when I was 19, I started working in Alaska as a greenhorn, and then off season I would go back home, and I did that for 5 years until I was 24. And 24, between then, that's when I actually started getting heavy on heavy drugs, and I was trying to keep up. I was smoking a lot of cocaine, I was smoking a lot of crack, just to keep up with work and back. But so fast forward, when I was 24, I was already heavy. That's when my addictive behavior started.
Right.
Started robbing, started smoking drugs, started making money, and it was no problem. It was the life that I wanted. At 24, no one can't stop me.
Right.
Who could tell me? No.
Right.
Right?
At that point, you kind of think you're above the law, right?
Right.
We
did what we wanted. I had my own crew. My mom and my dad were kind of pretty naive about it, but they kind of noticed because of my behavior changes. My dress code was changing.
Right.
My language started changing, but they couldn't do anything about it because I was pretty much independent. 25. I saw my first death. I saw a homie of mine got shot right in front of me. It was a rival gang, of course. They rolled by, they unloaded some bullets on him, and then I was shocked. It was my first death, and I think that was the first time I realized maybe I want to do something in my life.
Right.
So I went to school, went to culinary arts school, started learning how to cook. Got a job. Instead of working the boats in Alaska, I wanted to start working in the I want to say galley. It was a cafeteria on an offshore cannery to feed the people that's working on the cannery shops, the warehouse that's fishing salmon. So I was working in the cafeteria. That's where I actually learned how to work my way in the kitchen. But hours were heavy again, so I had to keep up. Right. So I started doing more cocaine and started sniffing lines between breaks, and my addiction got pretty heavy. And so when I went back, when I'm not working in Alaska, I was hanging out in the hood, the homies, just doing the same stuff. I was just been like that since I was 30. Nothing changed.
Right.
Okay. And so at 30 years old, I started taking, prescription pills, painkillers. I was taking Oxycontin, I was taking codeine, I was taking a lot of, Xanax wasn't out yet until it was in 2000s. So later down, when I was like 36, that's when I started taking Xanax. I wasn't working anymore. I was just home taking, I was still robbing houses. Like, I was taking people's hard-earned money, Wow. But my mentality at that time was like, what? They're insured. They could afford to get robbed.
Right. Wow.
So
it's funny how you'll find justifications for
your actions. We do.
Right?
We do, especially when we do a lot of criminal behaviors. Like, we're in a world, like, especially when you're high, like, you don't really care or concern about people's well-being or who you hurt.
Right. It's all about you at that point, and how you're gonna accomplish getting to your next fix.
Right. Yeah. It is. It was just bad. Before I reached 30, I saw maybe 5 deaths. I had 2 overdoses. I seen two overdoses. My friend got shot. My cousin got shot, all because of gang-related activities. And then I had two was drug overdose, and the other 3 was gang-related activity. So I seen a lot of deaths. But by the grace of God, I think he had his hand on me the whole time.
How about it?
Because I remember at one point when I saw when I saw my second death on the overdose on my homie, I was really high that day, I remember. And then I was in my room and saying, I'm gonna die, there's gotta be some way. But then I felt this overwhelming like comfort. So I knew that he had his hand on me, that he was trying to help me. Because during that time, I was trying to make something better for what I was doing, you know?
Did you have some sort of Christian upbringing?
Yes, my family are believers. They still are. My mom's side especially, they're always going to church, always giving out to the community. My sister too, she's well devout. I mean, like every Christmas she's out there in Skid Row. In LA, there's a place called Skid Row. Mm-hmm. It's off of 6th of San Pedro. If you ever look it up, they have their own community population there. So my sister goes there every Christmas in a soup kitchen and, you know, feeding the homeless. I think that's where my passion is, because I saw that growing up too.
Right.
What she was doing, you know? She would take me.
So there's almost
she would
kind
take
of this,
me when I was little, you know?
there's almost kind of this conflicted spirit during your life where you saw all this, you know, Christian activity, but yet, you know, there was a rebellious side of you.
Yeah, because
gets into gang, you know, criminal activity and that sort of thing. And I mean, was that almost like a constant battle throughout this time?
Kind of, because I was doing both, but I didn't want to live a double life like that, because I was feeling convicted because I was going to church. There was at one point in my life I was going to church with my family all the time.
While doing all this other stuff.
Exactly. So I think that's why I felt like God was still in my life. He was in my life the whole time. You know, I just needed to accept him, but I wasn't ready at that point.
Right.
You know, because I was working in my flesh. And at that point, when I was 30, it came to a point though, like my parents weren't really talking to me anymore, you know, or my sister or my brother, because, you know, the life I chose, you walk this side of the fence or this side of the fence, and I chose the other side.
Right.
So by the time I was like 29, I had my own place, you know. Of course, I was making my money illegally.
Right. No real relationship with your family at that point.
No more, because I was heavy on oxys. I was heavy on Xanax. So when they invite me to my family parties, like Thanksgiving, I was like, hey, Mom, can I use your bathroom? 10 minutes later, I'm nodding off in the toilet and they're knocking on the door.
Wow.
You know, it's been like that for like years. So you're like, enough. You know, we don't want to see you like that.
Yeah. Was that tough for you?
Of course. But I was an addict, you know what I mean? Right. I chose drugs.
Right.
It was tough. And it was so, the way I was coping with my hurt is through drugs. So it got pretty heavy, you know, because once family cuts you off, it's really difficult how to cope with it without any drugs on you. At that point, I was heavy on dope, so I was trying to find myself to numb myself. So
yeah,
but yeah. So it's been like that. So at the age of 39, okay. So at the age of 39, I had my own place, still being a drug addict. Had no communication with family, you know. All my friends are either in jail or dead. Had my first OD.
And what was that on?
Fentanyl. I was smoking it, and I never came to. But for some reason, my cousin was looking for me, you know, and she opened the door and she found me. She called my mom. She called the ambulance. So they revived me with some Narcan.
So how long? So you didn't really have a relationship with your mom. How long was it?
How long between when it started?
Well, from when that relationship was kind of broken until she shows up and you're overdosed.
Okay, so on my 32nd birthday, we went to a restaurant. Nodded off in the bathroom. They were looking for me, and that's when she cut me off.
It's about 7 years.
7 years, exactly.
But yeah, she shows up there.
Well, my cousin did.
But when your cousin called her,
no
hesitation from your mom.
Yeah, of course.
To get there.
Because she didn't want to know if her son was dead or not.
Right.
Okay.
Even after 7 years, even without having you in her life for all that time, she never stopped loving you.
Of course.
She just couldn't stand the hurt of seeing what you were doing to yourself.
Yeah.
So,
And what I was doing to other people. She knew.
Right.
She found out my criminal activities. Oh, yes. I forgot to tell you. 2004, I got arrested for identity theft.
wow.
Okay, that's when she found out that I was a thief. You know, I did 4 years. You know, got out at 2008, and when you go to jail, right? You kind of it was ironic because when you go to jail, you find out how to be a better criminal. Because I was locked up by the same people that was with the same crime, with the same offense, right? And you find out what they did wrong. So I'm listening to you talk to me. How'd you get caught? Now, in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So there was a few conversations I had with a lot of inmates.
So instead of rehabilitation, like the system is supposed to be doing,
No.
you're actually going to criminal school.
Yes. Yeah.
You're learning.
'Cause you're learning
you learn
more.
how to do it better once you get out.
And from then on, when I got a federal prison, I became a better criminal. Because ever since then, I never got caught doing what I was doing, and I just kept robbing people there.
Wow. And that's kind of the cycle.
It is.
I mean, that's kind of the cycle.
It is.
So I guess that's where, at this point in your life, you're trying to break the cycle. So
Of course.
let's
I was a
we'll
thief.
get
I was
back
a liar.
to an addict.
Oh yeah, I was an addict. I was
The list goes on and
the
on.
list. Yeah, I was not a productive member of society. Actually, I was a nuisance.
So at this point now, 39 years old, you're overdosed on fentanyl. Your cousin finds you.
Yeah.
She gets a hold of your mom. So what
By the
happens
time she
then?
got there, the paramedics were they already shot me from Narcan. I was already vibing, and that didn't stop me. My mom. I saw my mom's face. Matter of fact, the 3 overdoses I had, she was there. She was there. The second one was at her house. The second overdose, that was when I was 40. I was 40 years old. It was in November. I was about to turn 41. Okay, so that was in November. I was at Thanksgiving at her house. OD. Now, mind you, I OD at her house. That lady, dude, at the time she was 60. She was 63. She had to drag me to the tub, grab the ice, went to the store, grabbed ice. And I was like, she didn't want to call the paramedics. I had a lot of drugs in my pocket. She didn't know what to do. This was her first OD. She saw this. You know what I mean? I was foaming off the mouth. She went to the store, grabbed as much a bag of ice she can, poured it in the tub, threw it up, turned on the cold water, and I came to. And I seen my mom's face in her hurt, like, she told me, goes, if you're gonna go, you know what I mean? But she could not, she was an enabler when I was growing up, so this was at her point in her life, like she doesn't want to have nothing to do with me.
Right.
But I could see the hurt in her eyes, like,
Right.
Her son just OD'd in her bathroom.
Right.
And that was a constant routine at her house. I'm there getting high, in the same toilet, in the same bathroom, nodding off. Every time I go to their house, they would knock every 10 minutes. Even though if I wasn't getting high,
Right.
there was a point in my life that I was sober actually for 2 years. But the constant, not trusting me kind of led me to doing dope again. Because every time I was in her house, they kept knocking on the bathroom, make sure I was okay. And I was just didn't like that for years. Never was working, always making my money illegally. It's been like that since, like I said, since I was like 22 all the way now to 39. 41, got my second OD, So now, in the next year, 42, okay. I was in a point now I wasn't even doing anything anymore. I was just in my apartment just getting high. Car got repoed. You know what I mean? My rent's overdue. About to get evicted. You know, about to be homeless actually.
Right.
You know. My mom saw that. Of course, she enabled me one last time, 42 at her house. To a point though that I have to get treatment. You know. So I decided to go with treatment. I went to this place called Delancey Street. It's a behavior modification program, right? Um, that facility really helped me with my behavior. I was angry, you know, I was depressed, you know, I was mad, I was short-tempered. So did Delancey Street for like a whole year. It was just shock therapy, behavior modification, where they just talk crap to you about your behavior, treat you like crap. And that's where I got my work ethic is from that facility. But I didn't last there. I wanted to get high.
Right.
So I was there for like, 6 months, and asked for my parents for a loan. They gave me a loan to start a business, but I didn't do that. I did do that. And when they found out, they cut me off. Actually, what I did with the money was I got an apartment, refinance a car, a vehicle, just to get established. But it didn't, telling myself, I'm going to do it. But it didn't work out that way.
Right.
Got to my own criminal activities again. And like I said, when I turned 42 on, what was that, July? On August, I got into my car accident a week before I got my third overdose. My third overdose in the hospital. That's when my mom saw me and she hid the drugs. She was right next to my bed. I told her I was going to get treatment. But I wasn't really deciding to get treatment. I just told her that.
Right.
So 2 weeks after that, I popped Xanax. I was in the freeway. Got into a car accident. Hit a K-roll, paintball into a car. Crashed into the right shoulder. And then when I came to, the LA Dream Center building was right there.
That's a message.
It was a message. You know what I thought it was, Dan? A dispensary, a weed shop. So I had a plan coming there the next day to see what kind of weed they got in there. I went in there, and then as soon as I stepped into the campus, you could tell it was a faith-based program,
Right.
Just the way how people work and how people treat you there. So I was curious, and I went in there, and then got an interview and got intake there. So I spent a year there. I wasn't actually doing my program, I was being called, what do you call it, a dry addict, like you're sober, but you're not really doing anything
Right.
to work on your issues.
Right.
You were just there.
Right.
So I did that for a whole year, man. I was close to graduation. I was a week from graduation. I got a little LOA, leave of absence, a little pass. Came back, they tested me. But the whole time, though, I was getting high. Had my cousins come visit me. I had friends that come visit me. They were smuggling drugs, and I was getting high in the program. But God has a way of bringing things into light.
Right.
I think He's been like that for me. Because when I was here, I would get away from it for a minute, but I would get caught. It's like to a point like you're about to finish, and it's been like that. So I
Right.
think that's God's way. Like, don't do it.
Right.
This is how I'm going to do it with you. Like,
Right.
I'm going to let you get away with it, but I'm not going to let you get the finish line.
Right.
You're going to get caught. So now, that's what happened to LA Dream Center. So I got transferred here.
And that was essentially to get you out of your environment.
Yeah.
When you were, even though you're in the LA Dream Center, all your friends were a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
So, the smuggling activity, all that sort of
Sneaky
stuff.
behavior
was
that we used to
easy.
do.
Yeah.
I brought it with me.
Yeah.
But I did have a mentor there by the name of Mr. Gishi. He's a good mentor. He was in LA Dream Center. before I came to Texas, Southeast Texas, he recommended me coming over here because he's told me, maybe God's unrooting you somewhere else to be rooted somewhere else. They need leaders here. They need help here. And he told me about their vision, and I saw it. Even though I saw prison, and I go, how many people are there right now? 10? It was in my heart, but it's okay, because my mentor's like, he was, encouraging me because they need leaders there. And he goes, I think for you to become a leader and to get out of yourself and find yourself is this place.
Right.
And I believe that, and that turned out to be true. When I arrived here in Southeast Texas, I was culture shocked. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do here? But being part of something, like, I'm gonna look back in this place. I did something here. I helped.
So you get here and you're basically at square one in the program.
Square one.
So,
Back in orientation, doing the same program. I did housekeeping, did everything what everyone's doing now. Like the new guys here,
right.
I did it. But I had my relationship with the Lord here. He talked to me here.
Right.
He just told me to be still. Because all this time, you could tell, Dan, you've been here. We have a lot of time here. And what I did with my time is just try to figure out what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
I got trust. They gave me a trusted position in the office. They gave me a trusted position as a driver. They gave me a lot of trusted position where I have to work on my integrity.
Right.
Like I said, I used to be a thief, right? Now I don't take nothing without having permission.
Right.
As far as just a simple candy or a plastic spoon.
Right.
If I want a plastic spoon for the kitchen, I'm like, that's what I'm going to take.
Right.
I let my supervisors know. And I'm teaching that to the guys now. Like, it's hard. It's difficult to start something that you're not used to. Being honest.
Right.
Being positive. Being encouraging. We don't do that.
Right.
We don't.
Right.
Out there, man, we talk crap, we steal, we do drugs, but doing something right and walking in the path is totally different for us, and it takes practice.
Yeah.
But I got delivered from stealing. I got delivered from lying. Right now I'm trusted.
Right.
Why? Because I practice integrity. Of course we're human, we slip, but if you get up, and just do the same thing, learn from your mistakes.
And it's not an overnight process.
It's not. When I get out of here, I gotta practice it more now because It's a real world.
Right. Right. You're not going to have
The shell.
the support system.
No.
Again, you're inside these fences. Everybody understands what you're going through.
Of course.
So then when you get out there in the real world, you still need to have some sort of support system built around you, but it's different. It's not at your fingertips, so to speak.
It's not.
You may have to pick up the phone, drive down the road,
Right.
whatever the case is. So you've now been here for over a year, just graduating and getting ready to become an intern.
Yes.
Moving on the other side of the dorm, you like to say.
Yes.
And again, since we've been here this month, I don't know your official title, but we just know you're in the kitchen all the time.
All the time. I think last time you were here, last year I was in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cooking great food for
Thank
the
you,
guys.
Darren.
You mentioned earlier that, you did go to school for, culinary.
Yep.
So there's obviously a passion there for feeding people. And I think a lot of times, the easiest path to somebody's soul is through their belly sometimes,
Yeah.
I know that's one of the things my mom loved to do was feeding people, like when she went on these disaster relief missions and, when she went up and served at 9/11, she worked in the food tent, and
Wow.
she fed
That's awesome.
all the other first responders, and that was just her thing. When my brother was in the service for 4 years, and anytime he'd come home for leave, he'd bring 3 or 4 other GIs home with him. And, my mom's main thing was just giving them a good home cooked meal, because she knows they've been eating Army food
Right.
for the past, 6 months or whatever. So that was just her thing, was just feeding them. And she loved doing that. So, I think there is a true mission in feeding people. So I want to talk about, second part of the podcast. I really want to focus on that, where Jeff's going. Because when I first heard this the other night about your vision for the future, it just touched me in a special way. And that's when I was like, this I think is a story that we need to tell, Jeff. So, tell me a little bit about, where's Jeff going from here?
Where's Jeff going from here? Okay, let's talk about goals I have in my life. So I have this vision. It started, I would say 14 weeks ago. No, a little further than that. I have this vision that when I was in the LA Dream Center, we did outreaches in the homeless, right? And like I said, growing up, I see my sister helping the homeless too, being in service, being the homeless. Like I said, I do have the love for cooking and feeding people. Doing the outreaches here made me realize that I find joy in helping out the community, whether it's just giving out food. Most of the time, we're just giving out food. We do outreaches by giving out food in apartments, low-income families. And working in the cafeteria here, feeding my brothers, because, just the joy and the rewarding of like you're doing something for an individual that kind of make their day a little better.
Right.
So 2 weeks ago, but anyway, it clicked. Like, okay, this is something we should do. I wanted a food truck in the beginning. When I was cooking, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start a business.
Right.
I'm gonna start a business and open up a food truck and sell food off my food. Sell food off my truck. And it clicked. Like, what am I gonna do to give back? So I just decided, you know what? Might as well feed the homeless out the food truck.
Yeah.
Park somewhere in a park, put a sign there, free food, especially where the homeless are hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in a ministry for a church or a park or collaborating with a church that's feeding the needy or the homeless, or I'm just going to just park somewhere spontaneously where the homeless hang out. I'm just going to feed them.
Yeah.
Do something.
Love that, man.
And then I had my perspective change of like this is what I really wanted to do when I was out there actually in Beaumont. It was called Night Strike or Christmas at the Park they had here in Beaumont, where they fed the homeless. Our church, One City Church, fed the homeless. And then when I was there talking to these people, I was actually having a relationship, praying on these people. And you hear the stories.
Yeah.
And so it clicked. Damn, like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. And I love that, man.
You know what I mean? Like
I said, when you first said that, the other night when we were in the dorm, and as soon as I got back to the RV, I walk in, I'm like, did you hear what Jeff wants to do when he's done with the program? And I told Sandy, and she was like, oh man, that's awesome. And I think then the next day we were talking about it, and I'd mentioned to you about a project that we did back in Pennsylvania yet called Cups of Compassion.
Okay.
And it was ourselves and a bunch of other nonprofits where we just fed the homeless. And it wasn't always just homeless people. It was really anybody. And the thing that, like you just said, the thing that touched me the most is, I wanted to have conversations with them. And at the end of the day, that was,
more rewarding.
almost more important to them,
Right.
was to have a conversation, have someone look at them like a human being, like a fellow human being, not look down on them because they're on the street. You know, and you know, they'd be sitting there eating a hamburger or some chili or whatever. You know, I mean, we gave out so many different types of food, you know, and then you'd go up and you'd sit down like, hey, how you doing today? And we always did this right before Christmas. So, you know, obviously that's a tough time for anybody in that situation, you know. So, you know, at first, the look in their eyes of like, wow, like this person really wants to know how I'm doing, you know. And I think that's the, you know, the underlying thing that's even more important than just feeding them is making them feel human,
Right.
you know, and like you said, having a relationship with them, and you know, sitting there and I mean, most business deals, most, you know, of what we do as human beings is while we're breaking bread together. You know,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so when you're sitting there and you're feeding them, then you're talking to them and really listening to their story.
Yep.
You know, that can be the thing that, you know, that changes their life. You know,
Yeah.
changes their
I
direction.
totally agree, Dan. Like,
You know, and it's funny. Like we never, like so for us, it was a community event. I mean, obviously, it was focused on the homeless and those in need. And I remember the first time we ever did this. A woman was coming through the serving line, and she was dressed pretty good. And it was funny. She said to me, "It's you know, I'm giving her a hot dog and you know, hamburger," and she's like, "You know, I kind of feel bad because you know, I'm not homeless. I'm really not in need." She goes, "But you know, this morning when I was leaving for work, I drove over my lunch."
oh wow.
And you know, so I didn't have lunch today, and you know, I didn't really have money to go buy any. And I said, well, you know what? Today you're in need,
Right.
and we weren't judging
People.
anybody. You know, I didn't care if you were quote unquote truly in need or you know, like that. That's for you to deal with. You know, like if there was some wealthy person going through that line for a free burger, that's not for me to judge.
Right.
You know, that's whatever their reason was, that's their reason. So I love that concept, and I remember then telling you about that pay it forward pizza place in Philadelphia, man, which I think would be, you know, an awesome concept for you to try to tie into that
You
food
know what?
truck.
I was thinking a
you
lot
know.
about that ever since you told me about that.
Because again, it's a
That'll be-
way, you know, somebody can come up and
Pay forward.
buy whatever they're buying for you, and then say, and here's $10 to pay it forward for the next guy. You know, because I mean that's so important. You know, I mean, we were just after the candlelight service, Sandy and I went to HEB, and you know we're standing there in line to check out, and there's a woman in front of us, and you know something's wrong with her EBT card. And again, I don't know if she didn't have funds, you know, didn't care, you know. So they're resetting the machine and everything else, and the manager is like, "Hey, you know, we can help you guys out in the next aisle," you know. And I'm like, "No, we're fine. We're just, you know, we're in no hurry. We're fine." And they, you know, he's rebooting the machine because again, he's not sure, you know, is it the machine, is it her card, does she have the funds, doesn't have the funds, and he's rebooting this machine. I said to him, I said, "Look, just send her on her way, and you know, we'll take care of her bill, you know." And you know, he just looked at me and he's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, we're sure. Like, just don't hold her up anymore. Like, just send her on her way." And again, I don't know what the reason was that it wasn't going through. It didn't matter to me. And you know, look in that woman's eyes when, you know, he turned to her and he says, "You know, you can go ahead and leave." And she's like, "Huh?" And he was like, "They're going to take care of it for you." And she was just like stunned, you know, and Merry Christmas, and
Wow.
we were like, no problem at all, no problem at all. And I think there's a lot of people who are willing to do that, willing to help. Sometimes they don't know how, you know. So if it's as easy as buying their own lunch from your food truck, and then saying, you know, "Oh, and here's an extra 10 for the guy that might not be able to afford it," I think it's an awesome, you know,
Yeah, I
concept
think it's
to
great.
build off
I
of,
mean,
you know?
it's just, like I said, like you hit on dot when you see an individual, you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
You know, it's happening for a reason.
Yeah,
You know, that lady right there in line, she wasn't going there trying to con somebody.
Right.
Something must have happened. Maybe
Right.
someone spent a EBT card. You really don't know the reason why.
absolutely.
But you change her whole perspective of her day of how people are. You
Yep.
know, like you're giving her hope. Like there's people that are actually kind out there
Yep.
instead of being, you know, just being shunned.
Yep.
I mean, I wanted to tell you a story when we're at that park feeding the homeless, right?
Yeah.
This individual, this male individual, walking around with no shoes. It was raining, by the way. It was raining hard. He had no raincoat, shorts. You know, he was just walking around talking to himself. He was making circles around the park. And then me, Mariah, Michelle, Greg were standing there in our little tent, you know, and we were just watching him walk. And then we had these cards, these Christmas cards for the brothers that signed to give out to the homeless, you know. And I wanted to give him a card, but something was stopping me tomorrow. Just give him a card, just give him a card, you know. And it took me a minute. Now he was making circles, you know, was talking to himself. You know, no one was really trying to help him out. You know, they were giving him food and all that, you know. And then later that evening, like 2 hours later, Mariah left. You know, she had to go do something. And I'm like, all right, Mariah. And then somebody was telling me, hey, you want to do a walkthrough? Just walk around, talk to the people. Just start asking Michelle. He goes, yeah, I'll walk with you. You know, we're just giving these cards out. And guess who walks in my path? That same individual, right? I was like, okay, this is my time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, man.
Right.
You know? And I told him, hey, what's up, man? What's your name? You know, it's Bob. And he told me his name, and I told him my name. I'm like, how you doing, man? Like, I want to give you something. Because like, there's not even really nothing in it. There's no money, but there's a message over there. A couple guys are actually thinking about you. You know, and I wanted to give this to you. I gave it to him, you know. He stopped, whatever he was doing, he stopped. He was normal for a minute. He wasn't talking to himself. He was looking at the card, you know. And then he looked at my face and he gave me like a smirk, like, you know, he kept it. He goes, I'm going to read this later. I'm like, hey, bro. He goes, you know, I told him about the Dream Center and like, you know what I mean? But if you want to be out, I'm like, you know, man, I love you, bro. Like, I was taken about, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because when I saw his face, he was just normal for a minute.
Right.
He wanted to eat his food before he read his card, and when he read his card, he smiled. There was nothing in that card. It was just let him know that people out there are thinking about
Right.
these people.
Right.
You know, that was the point that I want to do this. I'm going to feed the needy. It even said in the Bible, you have to look for my loaves. You have to reach out.
Right.
Jesus wants you to look out for the loaves, help the loaves. That's where I'm at today.
So that was kind of the aha moment, that
was
interaction.
That was
with
yeah. I
that
told my
man.
brothers that, you know. Sometimes I want to tell you this. Sometimes like when we get here, we forgot how grateful we get because as addicts we're selfish. So when we come here, you know, yes, we're grateful and everything, but we lose sight of that because now we feel like we're entitled to something because things are going hard or things are not going our way.
Right.
Now we lose our gratefulness. And that night I told my brothers, because the days before that, you know, we were complaining about stuff, petty stuff, you know.
December was a busy month here.
It was.
You guys are working hard.
Yeah.
You know.
But I made them for a second let me look at it. I told them, guys, I have dirty socks in my laundry, but I get to wash them the next day.
Right.
I get to put on a different shirt. You know, I get to, maybe the food's not so great here, but I get to eat, you know,
And you know you're going to eat again.
yeah.
It's not that you're eating and now you're
How
thinking,
often do you get a hot shower?
where's the next
yeah.
meal coming from?
And that's when
Yeah.
you start talking to these guys at the park. They don't know where the next meal is coming
Right.
from. Some of them have families, you know. Yeah, so that was the, I want to say pinnacle. I would just say that was the deciding moment for my life. Like, and I told my parents that, and now they're like, oh, by the way, Dan, I got a relationship back with my parents thanks to the Dream Center
That's awesome.
here. Over there in LA, I didn't get it.
Right.
Here I did for some reason because they saw a change in besides change in my behavior, the way I speak to them. You know, I told them about my goals. You know, and they're really supportive of it. They're actually going to help me financially to do it. I don't have a set date because I have to volunteer. I'm an internship here, but as soon as I move over next week, I'm going to work on my plan to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think you have that relationship because they can tell that it's genuine now.
Yeah.
You know, they can tell. I mean, let's face it, addicts become very good actors.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We manipulate. Right?
And
What
you know,
else are we?
you can trick somebody for a while.
Yeah.
But after a while they can see through it.
Of course.
But they can also
See.
sense when it's genuine. So I think that's great. And again, I love the concept of the food truck, the pay it forward food truck or whatever you end up calling it.
I haven't thought about a name yet, but when I do, I am going to text you and give you some couple names there. You
Yeah.
probably decide to vote on it.
Yeah.
One of them is going to be probably Amanda.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I think
Yeah,
That's
that's a special idea, and I think it's going to be very successful, and it's going to be
thank you, Dan.
business with a purpose that's going to change people's lives, and I can see it, man. I know it's going to happen.
Receive that, Dan.
It's going to be
I'm
a
excited.
big deal.
It's something that I'm going to push forward to.
Yeah,
It's my main focus now. Of course, I'm going to be volunteering here because the Dream Center did help me a lot.
Right.
I mean, without Southeast Texas Dream Center, I don't know where I'd be at.
yeah,
I could have been went anywhere, but I think God led me here
absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. So we're just about out of time, but before I get to my final question, anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about, bring up to my listeners, anything like that?
Not right now.
Yeah.
Only one I can say is being in here. There's a lot of good people here.
Yeah.
You know, we just make bad decisions.
Yes.
But if you actually reach down to people's potential, they can do great things.
Yeah.
And I've seen it.
And we see it as well. Sandy and I see it every day that we're here. We see it.
Yeah.
And that's
Glad.
why, that's why this is our second time back here, and won't be our last time back here.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to
So-
see you guys. Actually,
So we
I
love
was
it.
happy when I saw y'all. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Me and Kyle, because we were
So as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is "Many Little People, Many Little Places," which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, which go, "When many little people and many little places do many little things, then the whole world changes." So what's one of the little things that Jeff does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place?
That was little things. Speaking life into people. Instead of bringing somebody down, try to encourage them, pray over them. The little things I probably do to change the world a little bit better. If I see trash, I pick it up,
Yeah,
throw it in the trash can. It's just simple things like that. I remember there was a saying. There's not a lot of people that are kind. They be kind,
yeah,
you know, to be that person.
Right.
So
right,
if there's not a lot of just bringing joy to people, do what just doing something with a servant heart, you know, just simple things like that. I think I believe would change the world. You know, where people are often going right to something in the left. You know.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that answer, and it kind of goes, into the philosophy of, what the Dream Center teaches is, be the difference.
Yeah.
Be the difference.
The difference.
Not. You may not always see the good out there, but it can start with you. So if you're the good, you can make that change And, you know, there is a definitive ripple effect that goes along with that. So, you know, don't always wait for somebody else to make the first
Right.
move. You be the one to smile. You be the one to be kind.
Exactly.
So I love that answer for sure. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, to all the guys that I've done this podcast with, I know there's a certain amount of vulnerability that goes into telling that story.
Yeah.
You know, so I commend you because, you know, I look at vulnerability as bravery. And I think there's some people out there that will be inspired by this story, and you know, you'll be able to change some lives by telling your
I'm glad to
story.
do it,
And,
Dan.
like I said, I wish you the best of luck with the food truck. I can see it happening, and
Thank you, Dan.
you know,
I'm going to receive that.
maybe next time we're down here we can go out on the food truck with you and help you serve. you
Yes,
know?
I'm going to I'm going to hold you up to that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hit you up on social media, your Facebook, or
Absolutely. So with that, folks, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out my blogs and other podcasts at danclouser.com. Jeff, again, I appreciate the time and appreciate everything that
Thank
you've
you,
done feeding us while we've been here for
I was
sure.
happy to do it.
Thanks a lot.